It is a cold day outside, so I'm going to have the thermostat blasting, and we've just finished a major upgrade and reshuffle of the workshop, so I thought it was a great time to show you how we make best use of this very small space. Before I get to the nitty-gritty of the actual workshop layout, I think there's a real value in me talking about the actual building itself. It is a detached single garage with breeze block walls and no insulation. It's 6 meters long by 3.5 meters wide, which is big enough to bring a car in, but you wouldn't be able to open those doors the full way. And that's a bit of a theme of the whole workshop, really, is it's small, which means we have to really think about what machinery we bring into the space and how we configure that machinery for best use. But we are very happy with the space. It works very well for us. We can produce more or less anything in here, even with the additional complexities of the camera, which means you have a large tripod and camera angles you have to achieve. Makes life difficult, but it is working well for us. But let's talk about a few particulars of the building that we had to tackle itself. Chiefly the floor and the insulation. There are several problems with the floor here, some of which we've addressed and some that we're just choosing to live with. Now, the chief of these problems came from the fact that there was subsidence in the property long before we moved in. It's been fixed, but it's left us with a legacy of a very uneven floor. There was a crack running up the centre here that was around about 100 millimeters higher than in the corner there. And then we've also got rising damp in selected places along the slab. We had a very uneven surface, and a problem we've still got is we've painted the surface, we prepared it well before painting, but after a few weeks after painting, a white sort of powder bubbles up and chips off the paint. So if you've got any advice on that, we would really love to hear from you. We looked at various different approaches to solve this problem, and on the face of it, the best option was to pour a concrete slab on top of this slab. But we veered away from that option for a few reasons. First of all, you have to pour quite a deep slab, and that would reduce our ceiling height to less than 8 foot, which in turn would mean moving material around the workshop would become quite awkward. Additionally, we couldn't find a company to work with that would give us the confidence that they were going to take the right approach and solve the problem for good. And given it's quite an expensive process, it just didn't feel like the right move for us. So instead, we decided to take the sort of halfway house and pour a self-leveling compound ourselves onto the worst affected areas and onto the more uneven elements of the surface. We also filled the crack with a special crack-filling resin and managed to smooth that out quite nicely. We wanted to give the floor a finish because it looks a lot nicer on camera, but also it's much easier to sweep up at the end of the day. So we started out looking at the more premium options of resin paint and rubber matting, but they seem to have a few drawbacks, particularly given our floor is still not perfect and they're very expensive. So instead we went for standard floor paint and we're quite happy with the results. It will scuff up and wear much quicker, but it's also very easy to put another coat on when the time comes. We're based here in Scotland, and I can tell you the winters can be freezing cold. Last year, we didn't have an insulated workshop, and it was hard going. Halfway through the days, your finger would barely be able to move, and even with every heater blasting, we could never get it warm enough for wood glue to actually dry. So insulation wasn't a nice to have for us, it was an utter essential. Now, the makeup of the building is we've got breeze block walls with a timber batten running across the top and then 100mm joists. Above that, we've got partial flooring, and below that, we've got 6mm ply to serve as a ceiling. In the past, we've made a fairly poor attempt at insulating by putting rock wool in the corners to stop air movement, but it really didn't do anything, and it wasn't good enough, so we want to do it properly this time. The best way for us to insulate this room without losing any ceiling height was to add 70mm PIR insulation between the joists. That would leave 30mm above for an air gap, which is not really enough. We'd prefer 50mm, but we'd also prefer thicker insulation, so it's a compromise. We always strove to get a tight fit between the joists, but given everything in this building is wonky, that was sometimes a little bit challenging. Still, we managed to get a good fit 90% of the time, and where we didn't, we used expanding foam to fill the gaps. We were also careful to run our electricals at this point, so we wouldn't have to later drill through this insulation and ruin that barrier. And finally, we ran a foil tape over all the seams. We'd have loved to insulate the walls as well, but we didn't do that for a few key reasons. First of all, if we had insulated the walls, we'd have to have the original breeze block wall, an air gap, and then the insulated wall. And the air gap would need to be ventilated at the bottom and at the top. The thing is moisture is very good at getting into a space, and unless an area is ventilated, it will just stay there and cause damp problems. So that ventilation would be necessary, and while it'd be quite easy at the top to ventilate it into the attic space, to get that lower air vent would actually be something quite difficult for us to achieve and not something we wanted to embark on. Additionally, the stack up of the dimensions of the air gap plus the insulated wall would really begin to shrink the workshop. Talking about moisture control, that neatly segues me to talk about the vapor barrier for the ceiling. Now, the vapor barrier is essential to stop any air movement from the warm side to the cold side. The problem we faced was forming an airtight seal at the edges of the ceiling. To solve this, we took advantage of the timber batten that ran around the walls. We ran the vapor barrier a little bit long and then sandwiched it between another piece of timber and the walls, and because we could screw it up tightly, we were confident we had a good seal there. To start the workshop tour, I'm going to start with the workbench, and I'm going to try and rattle through this so I don't bore you with anything. But we made this unit ourselves. It's made from timber. It's got 2 sheets of 18mm MDF on top to keep it really sturdy. And yeah, it's fantastic. It's on casters as well, so we can move it around as we see fit. And we're really happy with it. I think we'll be keeping it for a few more years to come. We've also obviously comboed it with a contractor's saw, and I think this is a really good way to combo things in a small workshop because we don't really have the space for a proper cabinet saw. So by doing it this way, we get to increase the value and accuracy, safety of this saw by no ends. We have, on that note, actually made quite a few modifications to this saw to make it safer, better, what have you. And we've actually made so many changes, we're going to make a whole video about that in the future. So do stick around for that. These grooves are cut out for a crosscut sled, and we've modified our crosscut sled so we can actually also do bevels, which is what this groove's for. We have a piece of T-track around to help clamp things down when we need to. A vise over there, power tool storage there, more random storage under here, dedicated extraction unit under here. So yeah, very happy with it. It's a great way to go, I think, in a small workshop. Against the wall, we've got our main front doors where we can get the stock into the room. We put a bit of acoustic material on there to try and reduce the echoes in here. Above, we've got primary timber storage where we tend to store our hardwoods. Sheet material goes below with the obligatory bit of foam to cut against. Of course, we've got woodworkers, so we've also got timber storage over there and over here for various different kinds of timber. And that brings me nicely over to this area. This is our secondary workbench area, and an area we've been fine-tuning for a few years now, and I think we finally nailed it. The big new addition is the miter station. We've got a half miter station, but if we need to, we can add a set of rollers over here. We can actually open the doors over there and run full 4.8 meter lengths out, no problem at all. We have 2.4 meters that we can run this way, no problem at all, because the stock can actually go underneath the bench. So this is working really nicely for us. We treated ourselves to a new Bosch Axial Glide miter saw, and we went for this version because this fancy mechanism here allows it to sit much closer to the wall. And believe it or not, although this is a 12-inch miter saw, it actually sits quite a bit closer to the wall than our old 10-inch miter saw. Happy with this saw. The only thing is the dust collection is horrendous, and I really do mean horrendous. So we've been testing this third-party Shop Nation extraction system, but although it's an improvement, I think it could be a lot better. So that's going to be a project in the future where we think we're going to custom design one. Actually, we are going to be custom designing one. It's just a matter of time of when we release that video and when we get to that. We have a piece of T-track along here to serve as a stop block so we can do repeat cuts. We purposely didn't put a fence behind on the miter station because we felt it had a limited value and it limits what you can store behind here. So we didn't put that in. And we've also got clamp storage here. The storage shelves extend all the way to here, so we can use that for various extra storage as well. Timber storage beneath, screw storage in here. That's really handy, by the way. And moving along, we've got the small tool storage wall. To make this, we just got a bit of plywood and we drilled lots of holes, which took a while, I'll tell you, but it is such a good solution to tool storage. Whenever we need to, we just pull a screw out, put the screw where we want to, and then we can hang whatever tool we need. There's always a solution just with a screw. That's all you need, and it's a much more robust and cheaper solution than the sort of peg storage that you might buy elsewhere. Beneath, we've got these units here. Previously, we didn't have doors, and it was a pain. Just it looked ugly in there, and it was just getting full of dust. So the doors are essential. And the way we made these units is they're completely custom units where they're built to the wall. There's a batten running along the wall, then the shelves and the whole frame is fixed to the wall. These legs go all the way from the countertop down to the floor, so it's very, very sturdy and it's very, very space efficient. Whereas if we'd gone for a more standard unit, there would be a lot of inefficiencies that were built in. So very happy with this approach. Here on the top we have the table router. This is a fantastic tool, nicely integrated. Again, in a bigger workshop, it would be much nicer to have it in the center of the room, but that's just simply not possible for us, so this is a really good compromise. The extraction is wired really nicely, so we can either extract from the fence like normal, or if we're not using the fence, we can actually extract from here as well. Below we have a very hard-working extraction unit with a cyclone setup. This vacuum actually serves basically every tool in the workshop with the extraction of the table saw and the thicknesser, so it's hard working. It's on wheels, so we can bring it to where we need it. The cyclone setup means that it takes longer between bag changes, and we basically never have to change the bag in there, which is good because the bags are quite expensive. Up above, we've got more cabinets. These are basically for all consumable goods. So we've got sandpaper, glue, paint supplies, that kind of thing. Down below, we have these drawers where we have router bits, hammers, saws, socket sets, that kind of thing. Down in the corner there, we have a compressor hidden away. And then up here, we have an oscillating belt sander, which also doubles up as a spindle sander, so a very useful tool. We have this bandsaw, which I thoroughly do not recommend. It is useless, it's horrible, and I cannot wait to replace it. And then we have a pillar drill. Pillar drill was one of those things that me and Dora weren't sure whether we needed or not, and now that we've got it, we absolutely love. So it just means that you get much more accurate results much more easily. We've got a PPE board, and if we keep moving along, up here we have an air filter. This has been really good actually. It removes all those fine particles from the air and it stops them settling all over the workbenches, so it keeps your lungs and your work surfaces much cleaner. I would recommend one of those, that's fantastic. And now you get to see all the fuss I need to do every time I move the camera. So this area here, this is actually all very new to us, and this is our new pride and joy. It's a, let me see, it's a jointer thicknesser if you're American, or a planer thicknesser if you're European. Basically, it's got the jointer slash planer on the top and the thicknesser slash planer on the bottom. Something like that anyway. It's an Axminster unit and we've used it a bit and it's, oh my god, it is so good. It's going to save us so much time. Prior to that we had this unit, which was really good actually, but it's just not as good as that. And having the planer slash jointer on the top is a game changer for us, and it's going to make a huge difference. When we got that, we had to up our extraction game and we bought this extractor. The extractors are really hard things to work out which one to go for. They're quite confusing and it just feels like there's not the products on the market that you want. That's what I found anyway. But this unit here, I've completely rejigged the orientation of it. So it's much more space efficient this way, and it's quite a powerful unit with proper fine dust extraction. So that's one of the problems with some of the other units, is they're not fine dust extraction, and in a small workshop like this, as soon as you start sanding, it just goes into your lungs. There's nowhere else for it to go. So that's been really nice as well. We will also couple that to other things every now and again, just to clean up the floor and various other things. But yeah, that's fantastic. This is fantastic. We're very happy with these purchases. And I think this is going to be, although it's big, it's going to be a big time saver for us. And we've also put it on wheels, so we can pull it out really easily, lock it down, and then we can use it as we need to. To save every little bit of space here, we've also cut away from the plywood just so we can push it into the wall just that little bit further. And even the way we've orientated the base is all about just giving us as much space here as possible, because it can get a little bit tight between here and the workbench. We've got another timber storage here. We were debating for a long time if we can get rid of this one and then maybe fit a larger bandsaw in, but I think we just need this storage or else we'll be throwing away good timber all the time. We've got some clamp storage, our crosscut sled storage, and that is us. So yeah, that's how we make use of this small space. I hope I was clear. If you have any questions, please do let me know. I'm going to try and link all the key products down in the description below. But if I missed anything, send me a message, and we do read all the comments, so I'll reply with a link to the product that we do use. So keep watching. Lots of interesting things to come soon. Some really big projects, some really interesting things that we're going to get to in a couple of videos time. So subscribe, like, comment please, and cheerio.